Good day. There's one animal found in Africa called the honey badger. The honey badger is one of the nastiest animals in the animal kingdom. It's an animal that predators do very well to avoid. It's an animal that its prey almost have no escape from. It's an animal that shows strength, ferocity, and viciousness that even lions, mambas, and the most dreaded of all the animals in the African savanna and plains just avoid the honey badger. Recently, there's an event that has happened that has made me come to compare Iran, the country of Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, as being of assuming the image of a honey badger. You see, Iran has been in the news as much as any other country for the past 40 years. But recently, news about Iran is dominating the airwaves. The reason being that Israel launched a very surprise attack on several targets across Iran, but primarily Israel tried to take out the military assets of Iran. They tried to also take out the nuclear assets of Iran, and also possibly try to take out the Ayatollah of Iran, the leader of Iran. Israel's campaign is one that has the excuse of trying to remove the capacity of Iran to enrich nuclear materials into almost weapon-grade materials. They also have the stated goal of, as many people have said, removing the Ayatollah, changing the regime, and putting in place one regime that is friendly to Israel and the American cause and the Western cause. That surprise attack has also led to a surprise response from Iran, a very ferocious defensive response that nobody expected. You see, what Iran has done since that time is that they've launched a barrage of drones, ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles on Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa. They've destroyed targets and sites in Israel, including the headquarters of the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, as well as the stock exchange. They've done another thing, and that's to render the so-called vaunted Iron Dome, David Sling, and all those air defense systems of Israel to look like they are leaking like baskets. They are not as effective as we had all believed them to be. But even then, Iran has also practically destroyed the so-called the myth that Israel is invincible militarily and that they are very powerful. They've destroyed also the myth that Israel is an exceptional state that nothing, no harm can come to, as we see rains and rains of missiles pour down on Israel at a level nobody ever expected. Now we are seeing images of Israelis running away from Tel Aviv. They want to catch the next available flight or move to Jordan or go through Cyprus. We're also seeing them worried. We're seeing images across the Middle East of Iranian missiles flying overhead and people chanting and celebrating in countries like Jordan, across the Palestinian lands, across Iraq, and across most of the countries of the region. People are celebrating the fact that for the very first time in its history, Israel is getting a black eye that they didn't expect. But that is not just it. There's been also a response in America. Since Israel has always got its strength from America and the politicians in America on a bipartisan level, no, we are seeing a situation where the strikes by Iran and the call for help for Israel has led to two things. There's been a big debate in America now as to the influence of the Israeli lobby on America. The temerity of Benjamin Netanyahu to go start a war and want to drag in America by his own actions. We see a situation where, for the very first time, the Israeli lobby is under the spotlight. And then now, a loud base in President Donald Trump's MAGA is questioning his support for Israel, unconditional support, and his attempt to bring America into a war. Good day, my name is Ebimo Amungo. Welcome to Ebimo Amungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any opinions about the ideas I express, please leave them in the comment section. Like and share. This country of Iran that has dominated the news for a long time, we all know this country of Iran as one country that has been painted in the mainstream media over several years, has been a bellicose, troublesome country to all its neighbors. In fact, to a large extent, some American politicians call the Israeli regime and the Iranian regime and the Iranian state an axis of evil and a sponsor of terrorism. There has been no nice thing said about Iran in the Western press. You will never see one. The times are changing. Iran's image has slowly to gain some stock because Iran has been one relentless defender of the Palestinian people. And as the narrative being put forward by the Western press starts to change because it's been undermined by the growth of social media like X, Twitter, TikTok, people are beginning to see Israel and its actions for what it really is. People see what's going on in Gaza, and people see what's going on all across the world, and they hear that one stringent opponent of all these actions as unrelentingly over several years has been Iran. So, but what has really been Iran's sin? Iran fell under the influence of a Shia revolution. So Iran is one of the few countries in the world that has a theocracy where the leader of the country is the Ayatollah. He leads, he's a religious leader and a political leader, and the cleric, Muslim clerics run that country. So it's one of the few countries in the world that is a theocracy. And because it's also Shia, it's alone to a large extent within its neighbors that mainly are Muslim Sunnis, and they are controlled by family sheikdoms and fiefdoms and kingdoms. So Iran is very different. And since its revolution in 1979, Iran has called to question the role of America, because America had a strong role and has had a very strong role in Iran. First, in the 1950s, they conducted a coup that replaced the elected Iranian president then. And then they supported a Shah that did their bidding for several decades until he was overthrown by this Islamic revolution. So Iran, Israel, America and the West has always had an interest there, more to do with Iran's vast oil resources. So Iran has always had a problem with the West because they kicked out a lot of those oil companies, and now they are under sanctions. They've been under sanctions, and these sanctions have always been on the assumption that they had a nuclear program. Iran did have a nuclear program when they had a war. Not long after the revolution, a brutal war was launched against them by Iraq with the full support of the Western world and Iran and America. They supported the Iraqi government, then led by Saddam Hussein, in trying to overthrow the Iranian government. That war was a brutal war, cost so many lives, and it lasted for almost 8 to 10 years. The Iranians survived it and survived the onslaught of the whole West against them. So they're a dogged people, they've always been. Let's not forget that this is the stock from their Persians in stock. That's their heritage. But in recent times, that need for a nuclear weapon has been banished by the Ayatollah, who, through a fatwa, has said that Iran does not need a nuclear weapon or a weapon of mass destruction. They instituted that program when they were fighting for their survival against Iraq. But since then, they have removed that program from one of their needs, and they quarantined the program and signed the Non-Proliferation Act and made themselves compliant to the requirements of signatories of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Since then, they still have been under the scrutiny of the West because of this nuclear program. For one thing, the Iranians say they have a right, since they've signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, that they have a right to have some form of enrichment. Because while they try to get enriched uranium for their medical services, they never could get it. It was never given to them. So they now decided that they were going to have their own enrichment for their own medical purposes. And that enrichment that they've always said, they said they will never let it go. For that reason, they started enriching nuclear material so that they could have civilian use for that enriched material. And over time, several sanctions started against Iran since 1979. They've been under a regime of sanctions, one regime of sanctions or the other, since for almost 40 years. And Iran came to an agreement when they signed an agreement with the West, then with the Obama government, the JCPOA, the joint the JCPOA was a program that an agreement they signed with the Obama government to stop enrichment beyond a certain degree and then open up their nuclear facilities to inspection by inspectors. But even then, it was not enough for some. When Trump came in, Benjamin Netanyahu was very skeptical of that regime, that JCPOA, and he influenced Donald Trump to cancel it. I've said in a previous video that the Israeli lobby is very strong. One of the biggest supporters of President Trump is a lady called Miriam Adelson, and she always insists on the protection of Israel's interests. At one time, she was a supporter and a financier of both Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. And in that regard, any idea that Benjamin Netanyahu had tended to be in alignment with what Maria Adelson wanted. So Trump canceled the JCPOA agreement with Iran. But the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which Iran signed and which America pulled out of, gave Iran an excuse to start to increase their enrichment. This increased enrichment has now led to a point where Iran has the capacity to enrich to 60% enrichment of their nuclear materials. They can very well move to 90% if they want to, but they said they don't want it. They don't want that. So that was never good enough for Benjamin Netanyahu as far as he's concerned. Any form of enrichment is bad enough. And under the new Trump presidency, when Trump opened up negotiation to start a JCPOA kind of agreement again with Iran, what did he do this time? He changed the requirements. First, he insisted that the requirements, Iran should not have any form of enrichment. And secondly, he also said Iran should not have any ballistic missile program. Now, for the Iranians, those two are non-starters. They need a ballistic missile program to protect themselves, and then they need at least some measure of enrichment for their own civilian commercial use of enriched uranium. But that was the sticking point. And while negotiations were going on, Benjamin Netanyahu has forced the issue. Well, as it stands now, the Israelis are finding the full weight and capacity of the Iranians. Let's be clear as to what Iran can do. Iran has, over the years, 40 years of conflict with Iran, with America, been preparing to fight America. They didn't look to just Israel. They looked at the fact that America will be on Israel's side any day that a war breaks out. And for that reason, they put most of their facilities underground. Their nuclear facilities are way under the mountains, just as their weapon systems are way under the mountains. For those who know, many people say that despite Israel's claims to have succeeded in taking out a lot of Israeli Iranian weaponry in the early stages of the attack, that there's still a lot that is underneath the mountains. So it is for that reason that Donald Trump has been called to by Benjamin Netanyahu that he should come and weigh in and try and destroy the mountains so that they can help in destroying the Iranian programs, both the nuclear program and the weapon program. So what are these weapons that Iran has and has been raining down on Israel? Well, it so stands that Iran has invested very seriously in drones of every capacity. Being that they are across from the Gulf, from the Gulf states, they have short and medium range drones. And being that Israel is 1,400 miles away, they have drones that can even go as far as 2,000 kilometers. They also have missile systems, cruise missiles. They have ballistic missiles. Mind you, also, Iran has launched successfully a space program. And you being able to send any material to space simply means that you can also have an intercontinental ballistic missile if you so choose to. But an intercontinental ballistic missile will have to be a delivery system for a weapon like a nuclear weapon. And the Iranians have said they are not going in that direction yet. And in support of what the Iranians are saying, even the head of the atomic agency, International Atomic Agency, has said there's no evidence that the Iranians are doing a nuclear program. But they do have these missile systems and this weaponry that are now giving the Israelis a major concern. The drones, as we've seen, the Shahid drones helped in reshaping the war in Ukraine. What they do specifically is to help you expand the weapons, the interceptor missiles that the defending countries have, like Israel and Ukraine. They help expand their very expensive interceptor missiles. So for the case of the Russians, they bought the Shahid 3 drones from Iran and used them very effectively. Now they've improved on them, and now they have the Geran 2 and Geran 3 drones. So the Iranians also have very good air defenses, which were compromised at the very first days of the war, but are up and running now. They may still not be so effective because, to a large extent, Israel has been hitting them, not necessarily with missiles, but with drones. Drones, as we have seen in the Russian-Ukraine war, are much harder to stop, just as the Ukrainians are able to send long-range drones deep into Russia and destroy energy facilities. That's the same way that Israeli drones are posing a problem to the Iranians. But many of them are coming down now because the Iranian defense system is now very, very active. But we are at a point where President Donald Trump has said he is taking 2 weeks to make a decision on joining the Iranians. 2 weeks that may change the world, ultimately. The Iranians have said that they will take out all the material, all the military and economic assets in front of their country or the Gulf, in the Gulf states there. They will hit Iran, Bahrain, Qatar. They will hit economic assets, and then they will close the Strait of Hormuz, where most of the global oil shipping is done. If that happens, we are seeing a situation where some people have estimated that oil prices may go up to $300. That will be a knockout to the economies of all the economies in Europe, and it will also influence America. But undermining the global supply of oil will definitely be a shock to Africa and Asian countries. We are seeing a situation where Iran is threatening the world at a point where, and they know they can do it. That's just like a honey badger. Honey badger will give up a stink and tell you, I can do this. So for this now, we see a situation where Donald Trump is thinking about it. But even then, Iran has already achieved one very major thing. They have made the American administration to move all their military assets from the Gulf. So now we don't have any American military assets again within that Gulf. They are far away so that they can use the ability of America to project power. And that's why a lot of the military assets, Air Force assets being shipped from America to different locations within Europe and the Mediterranean there are refueler planes, planes to help fighter jets refuel because they want to stay from far to make their actions, and then they stop America, the drones. So Israel, as we have seen it, is suffering. The Gulf states are worried because in an attack by Israel, by Iran, nobody really knows how it will impact on the politics, the local politics of Saudi Arabia, the local politics of Kuwait, the local politics of Bahrain. These are fragile countries already. They're quite fragile. Though they seem to have a strong hold on the populace. But Bahrain is particularly more susceptible because they have a large Shia population among them. So we are at a crossroads now. But one thing has already been clear. Iran has already won the narrative war, the propaganda war, and all the early skirmishes. They have destroyed the myths that America and Israel presents, and Iran has shown a capacity beyond what anybody expects. Going forward, we don't know what decisions Donald Trump will take. We hear about the possibility of people using tactical nuclear weapons in attacking Iran. That is one new avenue that will open up a new reality to humanity. So going forward, we really don't know. But if on a balance, the risk and the reward for the people attacking Iran may not match. The risks on the global economy, the risk on the Middle Eastern economy, and the impact on the Middle Eastern allies of America, and the impact on Israel. It's an impact that may possibly lead to the collapse of the Netanyahu government and the destruction of Israel as we know it. This is where I end my video for today. It's worth reflecting on. It's quite a serious point we are in history now. And if you have any opinions about the views I've expressed, please put them in the comment section. Like and share and help this channel to grow. Thank you very much.